Hello, welcome to another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great, Sal. How are you?
Outstanding.
Who you got for us
The
today?
fan favorite,
Fan favorite.
I know who that is.
our Premier Ag Technical Agronomist, my favorite agronomist, Glenn Longabaugh,
Boy,
is in the house.
I appreciate that. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop,
You want
whoop,
to
whoop.
exchange money now, or I mean, you obviously must be paying him to say some of this stuff.
And you two are dressed alike today.
We are. We're twins.
We got the memo, Sal.
Okay. Well, Glenn, before we get started talking about agronomy,
Yes, sir.
we have to have the question of the day.
Yes.
And your question of the day is, tell us about your most unreasonable fear or phobia, or if you don't want to reveal that, do you dislike spiders or snakes more?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I have a lot of phobias, but I am scared. I'm pretty scared of snakes, right? Snakes bother me. Not scared at all of spiders, right? I mean, I don't want to be bitten by one, but they don't. Yeah, they don't bother me too much. But no, I would say that I used to have a really unreal, unrealistic fear of snakes, and then I quit killing them about 20 years ago because I figured they were
That
trying
was your
to.
civic duty, was to kill every snake
Oh
you
yeah,
saw?
before there was no good snakes, even dead snakes. I couldn't get them buried fast enough, and it wasn't rational, right? My fear of snakes was just irrational, and I quit killing them. And then for whatever reason, now I still don't want to be around them. Like the other day, Donna and Bennett were making a bunch of crazy noises, and they came up, and of course Bennett's chattering 90 mile an hour, and on our walkout basement we've got this. It's kind of like a little porch or a little deck out over the top of our walkout basement, and they actually had 3 chicken snakes coiled up in that. So when you come out of the basement door, they're actually up over your head.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
And of course, I went down there. When I went out the door, I'll admit that I went through there pretty quick, and then turned around and seen they were all coiled up, just trying to stay warm. And there was a time when I would have probably dug them out with a hoe or a rake or something,
Chopped them to pieces.
and
Shotgun.
it was still all I could do to not at least relocate them, because I have, like today, I don't kill them when I find them in the shed, but I generally put them on a rake, carry them out in the woods, tell them how we're not going to cohabitate. We have the talk.
We're not cohabitating.
Yeah, we're not going to cohabitate. I found one last year in the new shed, brand new shed, no critters there, and still found a big old black snake in there.
I'll be dang.
But yeah, we have all that landscaping around
They
back.
listen to you. They're not going to the shop. They're going to the house.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
house.
So yeah, well, at the house, we've got that retaining wall around back that's all just dry laid stone. And of course, that's
Perfect.
It's a perfect harbor for 2 things. One, chipmunks like it. And then of course the snakes are there because of the chipmunks.
There you go.
So that's how that happens. But
Jeff,
Yeah, I'm not scared of anything, Sal.
no fears. I believe it. No fear.
You know, I don't know that I have. I'm not snakes. I like snakes. I love catching garter snakes and
Really?
rat snake. I mean, I like those, and but I don't mind mice. I mean, I hate them. I want to kill them, but I do not like a rat. And a mouse. It's like if there's a rat, we're going on a hunting trip real quick. If it's a mouse, I'll ignore that one. But
Sure.
Yeah, rats, they freak me out a little bit.
Yep.
Yep. Nothing like going into the feed room whenever you was a kid and throwing the lights on with your
Yeah,
bird shot and just shooting rats. That was a good time.
absolutely.
Well, I think I'm kind of with Glenn on the snakes. That was it's been a couple 2 or 3 years ago. You got the downspout drains with the tile that comes away from the
Sure.
house, and of course you get leaves and stuff in there. And I was down there on my hands and knees, and I was shoving my arm up in that black tile, and I was pulling out leaves and sticks, and I shove and pull, and I was shoved in all the way shoulder deep, and got this stick and pulled it out. And this black snake just twisting and turning around right in front of my face. I screamed like a girl, and
It happens.
it happens.
I see right now I need to get on Amazon, buy some rubber snakes. We can have some fun around here.
I don't
Yeah,
care for
yeah, yeah.
spiders either, really. I mean, them big old wolf spiders. I don't want to cohabitate with them either.
Yeah. So when you gave me my assignment yesterday of, I guess it was the day before, but yesterday I spent a little bit of time in a turkey blind because I needed I need to get some collateral out on a
That's his
particular
office.
on a particular product. Well, that's one place that I can go where it's quiet. And yes, the phone still rings, and I still took several calls. But that's the one place that seems like I can get, if I need an agronomy insight on a particular topic. If I go to a tree stand or a turkey blind, you can sit there, and it's amazing how much you can get done. And anyway, that blind I was in yesterday was just absolutely full of spiders, and you probably would not have liked it,
No.
but they were all harmless. So
Did you get a turkey?
I did. I shot.
Last time you were on, you'd been turkey hunting and you didn't get a turkey.
I had. That's exactly right. And so yesterday I actually met a small milestone. Had lots of good things happen to Longabaugh this week.
Yeah.
Yesterday I shot my 63rd turkey with a bow. Right.
Huh.
So I've now shot my age in turkeys.
Nice. Pickup load of turkeys.
And I thought maybe I could just retire, but then it dawned on me, you
have
know,
to
this
shoot, you have to shoot
fall,
one a year now to stay even.
yeah, this fall I'll be 64, and then I will have not shot my age in turkey. So
Oh, God.
I'll have to go back to shooting them again next year. And yeah, I don't know what it is about turkeys, but there's always a little bit of, I've probably told you this before, but when you stick an arrow through a deer, there's always a little bit of remorse, even if it's a really good deer, there's something about that sound. But turkeys are just so dead burn ornery that you don't have that same. And of course, I thought I made a pretty good shot on him, and he turned around and came back, and I stuck another arrow through him, and he still about got away from me. I had to go run him down.
Oh my gosh.
And they're hard to take down with a bow. I had an Olympic gold medalist one time told me, when I first tried to shoot a turkey with a bow, I said, Rod, young man's name was Rod. I said, what's the magical combination? And of course, he immediately tells me who his sponsor is, which was Muzzy. He goes, oh, it's Muzzy. And I was like, no. I said, that's because you shoot for Muzzy. I said, what is the magical combination for a turkey? And this is an Olympic gold medalist archer, right? And he thinks for a little bit and he goes, 12 gauge.
That's funny.
So that's kind of what started, that's what started me down this path. And anyway, I've killed a lot of turkeys with a bow, and I'd love to tell the listeners what the secret is, but then it might take the fun out of it.
That's right. Can't share everything, can we?
Yeah, we can't share it all, but
Call Glenn for your guided archery hunts on turkeys.
There you go. And by the way, you'll get lots of nap time, because that's really kind of the secret. Is most folks that are unsuccessful that make turkey hunting into a really big deal, they call at them way too much. If you ever get a bird to answer you, if you can just, I tell people, I said, put your call in a plastic bag, put the bag in your pack, put your pack outside the blind if you can stand it, right? Try to get it as far away from you as you can, because if you keep calling at them, that's what keeps them from coming in.
Yeah.
Right?
Just be patient.
Yeah, it's all about waiting them out, which works perfect if you have if you got an agronomy insight to write.
That's right.
So
Well, those are good hunting tips. How about agronomy tips? You got any good agronomy tips for us? We're first part of May here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Been a little wet.
More mid-May-ish and wet. And
yeah.
And,
It's amazing that we're talking about this already. We're still, by the way, in the if you look at historically, the ideal window for planting corn is the 20th of April through about the 10th of May. And so we're kind of approaching the end of that window, and we've got quite a few places that are saturated enough that they certainly won't be planting by the window if it stops raining today even. But there's certainly that window doesn't just fall off, right? Once you get outside of the 10th of May, it's not like yield. In fact, it stays relatively flat. You're probably at 97% of your yield goal up until about the 20th. And then it starts to degrade a little bit, right? And we start talking about June corn. Now, then we're talking about, significant losses. But yeah, there's really no room to get in a total panic attack. In fact, if you think about where we were at last year, I'm not convinced that we're any worse off than where we were last year at this time.
yeah, that's perspective. I know it feels like sometimes we have a sunny day and we're not busy because it's wet, and we just the panic. What do you call them? The vapors.
Yeah.
You get the I can't breathe.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have vapors pretty regular, but yeah, I mean, I wrote about this.
Still better off to go off field conditions than the calendar, right?
Oh, absolutely. We always plant by the forecast and not by the calendar. And so, and we need to have, we need to have decent soil conditions. We got by with that the last couple of years, especially last year. If you think about it, last year we had some early birds that went out there and kind of pushed the ground on the front end. And I'm not talking about the sand. I'm talking about, decent ground that typically holds moisture. There were some guys went out there early, and I kind of shook my head at them and said, "These guys are absolutely nuts. Why are they pushing the ground? It's still early in April." And I planted in mud that was way worse in the end of May, right? And because we got in that kind of a window, and and then we got by with it, right? Even though June was fairly dry last year, we still had a really good crop, and so I would just say don't get too panicked. I think it does feel different than it does last year, even though commodity prices were eroding last year. The area was probably that's not planted was not as big, right? Or it might have been bigger this year. If you think about it, Nebraska's pretty far along. Minnesota, for as late as they normally plant, is pretty far along.
Yeah.
Iowa's pretty far along. I went through Central Illinois a week and a half ago, and almost got nauseated because they're pretty far along, right? A big part of the Corn Belt.
The Eastern Corn Belt's lagging a little.
Yeah, the Eastern, and especially the tri-state area, right? You think about Southern Illinois, Southern Indiana, Western Kentucky. Of course, Ohio doesn't count because they're always wet. They're always late. But yeah, the tri-state is certainly behind the. And then, of course, you have the market kind of going away from you right now, and that might change, right? I just heard that our president got together with Prime Minister of Great Britain, and they had a big love festival, and the market's up 500 points today, and
Wow.
everything's really reacting positive, and that's what we need, right? We're we when it comes to agriculture, we can't be isolationists. We need
Yeah.
some of this grain to go abroad, and of course that's outside my expertise. I just know that.
We need more people that need more corn.
Yeah, we need to crunch through a bunch of corn somewhere,
That's true.
and soybeans too, right? So
Well, going through this year, I mean, one of our, I'd like to say that we've kind of finally discovered, the potential with the new hybrids and the systems approach, like you've been coaching us on.
sure,
And we've had some very good yields, corn and soybeans, over this last 4 or 5 years. And I know this summer, with our interns, we'll be doing a lot of tissue testing.
absolutely,
And then also probably, it's hard to believe, but we're going to be trying to increase our fungicide applications, not only at the traditional reproductive stages, but also in vegetative stages,
absolutely.
and as part of the systems approach. And we're just going to try to get this ground to have the maximum economic yield that we can have. But getting through this year, we were talking a little bit about phosphates, and those are going to be fairly expensive, it looks like, right, Jeff?
Yes, for the foreseeable future, we're seeing it going into fall with higher price levels than we've seen when
Sure.
we look at it like our summer fill. So phosphate's a concern. Has been for a while due to the
It has.
countervailing duties, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Very good. Yeah, so I don't know what specific question you have
Well,
about
the
phosphates,
question-
but I would
yeah.
say this about phosphate. Phosphate is not something that we don't move the mark in phosphate very quickly in soils, right? So when you think that it takes about 9 pounds of P2O5 to raise a soil test level 1 pound, right? And it takes about 20 pounds of DAP or triple superphosphate to actually give you 9 pounds of P2O5. That means it takes 20 pounds of P2O5, or excuse me, 20 pounds of DAP or triple to raise a soil test level. So I guess I would start by cautioning growers, man, is phosphorus in a great big pool in the soil that only a small amount is available to a plant at any time? Absolutely. Can you get by for temporal periods without replacing a bunch of phosphorus, that's absolutely correct. But man, by the time you get to a point where you start to see it to be limiting, it is really difficult to put it back. And
Oh my.
and to Jeff's point, it's crazy expensive, right?
Yeah.
So, and by the way, phosphorus has a really, really high harvest indices, right? And harvest indices, most people are probably not familiar with harvest indices, but of what is taken up by the plant, how much is actually removed is what we mean by harvest indices. And the harvest indices for phosphorus is higher than nitrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, any other mineral nutrient. Phosphorus has the highest harvest indices. So what that means is if you're removing grain, right, this is that closed system thing again, right? If you're removing grain, you're removing phosphorus, right? And so if you're raising a crop and you want to continue to raise a big crop, you need to continue to at least maintain where you were at, right? Does that mean of the phosphorus you put on this year, you're going to uptake, the majority of it, and then the majority of that is going to be removed with the crop? That's not really the way it works, right? It goes into a big pool, like a big reservoir, and it's constantly kind of exchanging places with only a very, very small portion of it really available to a plant. But once you start removing crops, you think of a 200 bushel corn crop, right? Which is a very average corn crop today, right? You wouldn't have said that 10 years
Yeah.
ago. You'd say, man, that's an exceptional corn yield. Today, we have whole farm averages that are in excess of 200 bushel per acre. And that will be, somewhere in excess of 80 pounds of P2O5 that's going to be removed,
Wow.
which means that you're going to probably need not quite 200 pounds, probably 175 pounds of DAP, 175 pounds of triple, 180 pounds, 85 pounds, whatever that would work out with MESZ. Any of those products is going to require a fair amount of nutrition.
Yeah, I think it's a really good. We've been saying it for a couple of years just because we've seen this DAP market trading higher than we liked. But I think we're in that cycle. Let's continue to look at, maintenance rates. It's not a good time to build.
That's right.
I mean, you're welcome to. We can get it. We'll sell it to you.
Sure.
But I think it's a good time to really have that relationship with your account manager, and let's look at crop removal and what your maintenance levels are, and just try to maintain, and let's weather this storm. Because I think there's some things coming. There's a bright spot out there. We've got some additional production that should come on around the world that will help things. But we have a declining phosphate ore deposit here in the U.S., and so we're relying on imports. So we need to get rid of some countervailing duties and get this thing back open a little bit from a free trade standpoint.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we didn't have a whole lot we needed to cover today, and I know that you got a lot of things to do today, Glenn.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have anything else we need to?
No, I think we're just sunshine and some warm temperatures and some little wind blowing and get us back in the fields, and it'll be go time.
Absolutely. We're all ready to go.
All right. Well, Glenn, thanks for joining us today, and thank you for everything you do for Premier Ag.
My pleasure.
And if you're a customer of Premier Ag, you get to see Glenn's smiling face on your farm from time to time. So another reason to purchase at Premier Ag.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's another episode of The High Ground, powered by Premier Companies. Thank you all very much.